Okay, back live for another Wine Simple Happy Hour live talk today. We stay in Brooklyn, and I'm very excited to have a very, very good guy, super sommelier, with an incredible wine list on the show. Oh, hi, Majid. Oh, I lost him. And we chat a little bit about Brooklyn. There he is.
What's up?
Oh, how are you?
I'm great. How are you?
How are you holding up?
You know, every day is a different challenge, but I'm healthy, so it's hard to complain, yeah?
Okay. Well, that's good to hear.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So things are good. You're good?
You know, I make the best out of it,
Yeah,
and it's a new situation, and what are we gonna complain about? It's not gonna help anyway.
exactly. I
Yeah.
totally agree.
Yeah. Are you at work? It looks like at work a little bit,
Yeah,
no?
I'm in the garden, which is kind of
Socially
sad to have it
distanced?
empty, but yeah, I'm in the corner, literally, so nobody can get near me.
Are you guys
So
still delivering?
yeah, so we just started back up last week with the pizzeria. Frankie's is up as well. And then we took the wine bar and turned it into like a pantry. And then the wine cellar, everything's online. So uh, we're doing delivery ourselves. I played delivery driver today and ran across Brooklyn from Greenpoint to Bay Ridge. So that was fun. Yeah, again,
That's
just
how to
trying
get the neighborhood.
right? Just try and finding ways to make it work.
Yeah, this week I have all Brooklyn people on.
Yeah, Brooklyn's the best.
Well, it's quite something, huh?
I was chatting with my friends, when this whole started. I think there was maybe for the first 5 or so weeks of quarantine, I obviously didn't leave the house or the neighborhood, so I didn't go into Manhattan until I guess maybe Tuesday of this week for the first time in a while. So feels
Yeah,
nice. Yeah,
feels nice. Yeah, well, I've been in the city, but only with the bicycle.
yeah. I don't know if you know me too well, but I don't do much of the
I
exercise of the
know.
bicycling. So
Um, I see, I see. We get a lot of comments if we both actually discussed our outfit, and
yes,
the answer is no, because we
no, but
both are dressed in blue.
yes, but great minds always think alike. We don't have to communicate to know what to do. So
Exactly.
I,
You still have your French workman jacket on, right?
yeah, well, a little overshirt. Yeah. So
Little-
I try.
We love that one.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah. So here we are, I suppose.
Here we are, and trying to make the best out of it.
Yeah. So what's been happening with you? What else have you been doing for
Um,
quarantine?
Cycling, trying to eat healthy,
Yeah.
still drink wine, um, losing some weight, ideally.
Uh, nice. Good
Yeah,
for you.
yeah, no, I'm fit. Yeah,
I
because
can't.
I have to train, for our friend Mr. Engelman.
Right.
He's out on
Yeah.
the roads too,
Yeah. Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
and
I wish I was good at biking, but I'm not. I'm good at the
well,
scooter. I have a scooter, so it's a different type of biking.
and doing social media and promote, the book and promote these little things from my website, and
Nice.
that's it.
Amazing. Well, yeah, we're
So
you know waiting on the day when we can all get together, drink some wine, maybe eat some pizza, barbecue in the backyard. Uh,
I go
I've
back to normal,
Yeah, totally. I have no idea
hanging
what
out
that's
with
gonna look
people
like,
rather than
right?
doing it over Zoom, or rather doing it over
Totally.
uh, uh, all sorts of apps. Uh, the human
Yeah.
interaction is something special.
You really I've realized a lot in this I guess we've been what, 8 weeks now? Um,
Yeah.
you realize how much you don't need, but then you realize the things that you can't have, which is hanging out with your friends and being able to go to the store with ease. You realize how much you take for granted those simple interactions that we do all the time that you can't do anymore.
Hmm.
So it's been a very interesting experience. I'm sure my wife is a little relieved that I'm back at work a couple of days a week because the two of us working from home in a small Brooklyn apartment is has its challenges.
Yeah.
But,
That's...
so, but yeah.
So how much wine did you drink during your
So
quarantine?
I did a very interesting experiment, actually. I recorded everything that I cooked and I drank from the first day I was home until the night before I came back to work. So surprisingly, I didn't drink that much wine in the beginning. I think for the first three weeks, I only opened 6 bottles of wine, which
What
is,
happened?
I don't know. I guess I wasn't feeling it. I was drinking a lot of Campari, which
Ah,
I was, I guess, getting it elsewhere. I drank a decent bit of beer, and then we started drinking a little bit more, but nothing really like. I didn't have anything crazy, but just fun wines that were easy to drink at night. No fuss, didn't have to think about it, and you know, but random things.
yeah,
Yeah,
interesting. No, I had every
yeah.
day a bottle. I
Really?
mean, yeah, well, with Catherine, not by myself. Uh, no, but
Sounds like
I,
core quarters
I
developed a
think
drinking
that
problem.
there was one. No, but you're not gonna go nuts onto it.
Yeah, yeah.
Again, I still shaved off my 16 pounds, 14 pounds.
It's amazing. I probably gained a handful, but I don't
Yeah,
know. That's
and
amazing.
so that's what it is. But I still had everyday bottle because I have to do the shows. Today, I have to
Sure.
admit, I have 2 bottles next to me and I don't know what to pick. But I screwed up because I have a German session at
Uh,
3 p.m. and I left them
Amazing.
standing out, so now they're not perfectly warm. So that's why my glass is empty.
Yeah. Well, I'm embarrassed to say just because I'm still in the workday. I have water
Yeah,
next to me. Otherwise, I would drink some wine. But
yeah. Well,
I don't know.
we have.
What have you had that recently that have you ventured past your normal routine with respect to what you're drinking or
Yeah.
have,
Look, it's obviously very interesting times, and I thought, look, I started tasting and buying wines for myself because in my cellar I realized I have a lot of just insane stuff.
sure.
And I went actually to a store and bought and wine, in the 20 to $40 range. So sometimes down to 15. How does that, we don't drink these wines that often
Yeah, totally.
and don't even think about it. And actually, it's super interesting, eh?
Yeah. You know,
Uh,
I I realized the same thing when my wife and I were opening some wine, and I'd pull something from downstairs and come up. She'd be like, "Oh, that's fancy." I'm like, "Well, I don't really think it's that fancy." And then the discussion went a little further, and then we realized like you kind of want to just have some fun things around that you literally don't have to think about. Not necessarily whether it's expensive, but if it's special or it has some sentimental value or something to you. So we picked up the same deal. We went to Slope Cellars, which we live across the street from.
mhm.
Picked up a couple bottles of
I
inexpensive
love that
wine, and
store.
yeah, it's great. I
I
maybe
love
should have
that store.
maybe shouldn't have said that on your Instagram feed so that more people find out. But
Well, I had some funny coincidences in there.
yeah, they're
This,
uh, they're they're very good people.
yeah, I
Uh,
like that store a lot. I go
yeah,
also to Leon and Sons, which
yeah,
is probably a
of
little
course.
further away from you,
Yeah,
but
not
closer
far.
to me.
Yeah, it's a great store
But
too.
yeah, yeah. So
So
Phoebe is asking, JB, was there a wine you could deliver to Aldo right now, and what could it be? What would it be?
huh. I don't know. This could be tricky, right? Because I know what you like. I know what you don't like. Um,
Huh?
but
What do I don't like?
maybe wines that are too natural.
They have to be. Look, they have to be delicious.
You're right. You're right. That's the only goal, right? Delicious
Uh,
wine. Otherwise, does it
that's
matter? What's the
no,
point?
actually, times changed a little bit. I opened up. Believe it or not, writing this helped.
Oh yeah,
I,
amazing.
I learned that. I mean, listen, the topic itself is obviously very divisive,
Sure, of
and
course.
people take positions like hardcore on both sides. But you know, first of all, the term itself is not really clearly defined. What does that mean?
Yep.
When someone could argue, Rinaldi is natural,
Sure.
and you couldn't really debate that. right? The
Yeah,
other one said, absolutely not. This is certainly not true. Or Thierry Almar is natural. We couldn't probably
right,
debate it either.
right.
So, what does that term even mean? But on the other hand, I think, look, it's an interesting topic, and I've learned a ton, and I've interviewed a ton of people also for this. I spoke to Raj, I spoke to Pascaline, I spoke even to Alice Fearing.
Yeah,
No, but listen, it was mind-boggling in a sense. I've learned a ton, and
right.
ultimately, everyone looks for one thing: it has to be delicious.
Yeah. I don't
Right?
necessarily want to drink something that doesn't taste good, right?
Mm, exactly. And actually, it was a learning experience. I loved it.
Yeah. Yeah, I've had moments of wanting to be adventurous and maybe going outside of my comfort zone, and I've found a couple of wines that maybe sway in the what some would consider supernatural end that maybe some of my close friends don't particularly enjoy, but they give me a little bit of pleasure, and if they're fun to drink, they're fun to drink. So, you know,
I mean, look, I think they have all their right and place to be.
yeah, totally.
Are you every day in a mood of drinking one specific style of wine? No, you want to have a full range.
Yeah. And
And
I'm guilty of like I know what I like and I maybe drink what I like often
often,
and
well,
frequently, right? But it's fun to go around and even especially too with we work within the restaurants. We have an identity of what we serve and what we like to serve, and I like to go around that sometimes and maybe drink some things that wouldn't maybe you wouldn't see in the restaurants, but uh, maybe not as often. But I also think that getting perspective and seeing what else is out there is important because it helps you create an educated opinion on what just like you're saying, it's a very divisive subject, right? So having an idea of what certain terms mean in the natural wine movement, or even the conventional in conventional wine, of what or whatever that means per se. But
no, but
yeah,
again, I bought some even natural style
sure,
of wines,
yeah,
and you explore. I mean, look, you get hung up so quickly about misinvesting in something, but the next day you taste it again, and you might
yeah,
learn something. And that's the way how I treated it.
yeah, totally. It's been over the last couple of years as this movement has grown, and I think there's many amazing wines that I've been introduced to through this movement. But it's been nice to find stuff that's still affordable that you can, go buy 3 bottles of, drink one, put a couple away, and revisit them over time, or find something you like that you can actually get your hands on and have some around. That's been, especially nowadays with climate change being the problem that it's been in certain wine regions and quantities are different. And then there's Instagram and wines become very popular and harder to get. And so it's nice when you can find something new that's satisfying, that not necessarily under the radar, but isn't maybe within the same like circle that you follow. And it's nice.
Yeah. So, what would the wine be you would deliver?
Huh. There's a new producer from Jan de More that he introduced to me a couple of weeks before COVID, and that's Amarotti, and it's in Abruzzo. And he was introduced. The story he told me was he was with the Valentini family, which he now imports the wines, and they were traveling through the vineyard, and he pulled over and was like, "You have to meet this guy. He makes Trebbiano, Cerasuolo, and a Montepulciano that's amazing in the same kind of ethos as Valentini, but obviously not nearly as expensive." And Jan kept telling me about them, and finally they showed up. We tasted them, and I was like, can I have all of them?" And he was like, "No, you can't have all of them." So we sold some. The Cerasuolo, I think, is one of the most pleasurable bottles of wine that I've had in the last year, and I like it. I've made carbonara at home. It's perfect. It's classic pairing. But even with pizza, it's great because it has a little crunch, has a lot of acidity, but it's super fresh, and with like tomato and cheese, it's pretty good. So I think I would like to put it in front of you because I would be interested in your opinion because it definitely sways on the more natural end of the spectrum, but it's delicious and it's clean,
Yeah,
which is obviously important.
that's
So
funny.
Yeah, I think you would. I think you would like it, and it's different.
I'm I'm open.
Sure. When this is over, I was looking for some the other day and saw that Manhattan Wine Company has some, so I'll pick up a couple bottles and we'll drink some. Maybe we can drink it in the backyard when that's permittable.
I saw an interesting question. Where was it? Yeah, John, can conventional wine have a crunch?
Uh, is Michael Engelman asking that, or
No,
is that
Chase.
of course
Yeah.
Chase? I would ask you the question of, do you know what crunch is?
So the answer would be yes,
Yeah, of course. Why
of
not?
course. Um, no, Michael Engelman asked another question. And Brian Garcia is also rather active.
Yes, it's
Yeah,
because he
so
has nothing better to do than just troll the
he
internet for all
he
hours of the day.
he's asking who is the person you miss the most?
Who's the person I miss the most in quarantine?
Yeah,
Well,
obviously Brian Garcia.
yeah, no, you see him once a month is good enough, right? Um, no, it's kind of a bummer. I was supposed to travel right when this started, and go spend my dad's birthday with him, so that was kind of a bummer. Or we'll be able to do it again, but more of like my wife and I talk about this, and it's not like, it's not sad per se, but it's a bummer when you want to do when you oh, we were going to go on a beach trip. Well, you can't do that anymore. So not being able to go see family is kind of a bummer, but you know, I still interact with my friends. I only have like three friends. They're probably all on the thing right now. So
Yeah. um, you obviously built quite a wine list at your
yeah,
places.
it's
Um, Now I've met you in Paris. We've drank beer there,
yes,
and you seem to be the guy who is maybe not the loudest in terms of out there, even though you have a ton of fun, but you're very eclectic.
yeah, you could say that.
When you travel, what are you looking for?
Uh, I wanna. It's it's the a cheesy saying I think that a lot of people in the restaurant industry say is like, you want to eat what the locals are eating. You want to go to the restaurant where you're the only one speaking. If you're in a foreign country, you're the only one speaking your native language, right? So I think it's maybe kind of cliche to say authenticity, but um,
No,
I
no, I know
kind
what
of
you mean.
my wife and I were very, very lucky, and we spent 2 weeks in Japan to start the year, which amazing timing. And we had a bunch of resources and were able to find a ton of restaurants. Which, if you've never researched going to Japan and Tokyo specifically, it is incredibly overwhelming, and it might as well be a full-time job. But um, to go to restaurants where you knew nothing about what you were going to receive, you knew nothing about all you knew was it was going to be delicious and it would be an authentic experience for whatever that style of food was. It really, like, it blew my mind. So that's always been something that I want, whether it's going to Paris and sitting in a cafe, or going to like Bistro Paul Bert. It's one of my favorite restaurants in the world, and because it's so authentic to what it is. And I'm also like a sucker for classics, whether it's New York or even in Alabama or where I'm from or wherever. But I think that's you want what's unique to that place, right? Because New York is, I think, the greatest city in the world, and you can get the best this, the best that, and an amazing like interpretation or representation of something. But going to that place, or going to Tokyo and having Tokyo sushi that's all from the market there, is it's on another level.
So how do you research that when you go into new places like that?
It's best to ask your peers.
Um,
Ask your friends who have gone. I don't like giving Brian Garcia credit for much, but he was very instrumental in like giving us a name of a bunch of places. I work for two people who are obsessed with Japanese culture and Japan, and they were a wealth of knowledge. And surprisingly enough, Instagram was an incredible resource to search for photos and finding local like food bloggers and sommeliers, and then connecting with them, really. And we were able to do that. And I met a couple people through Instagram beforehand that helped us get into places or helped us go in the right direction. So you kind of have to go out of your comfort zone. And to be honest with you, that for me is a challenge, as weird as it might seem to somebody, but I don't, unless I'm comfortable, I don't really like to go, I don't like to be super out there and ask for things to strangers. So, but, you know, if you want the experience and you want to have it the right way, I think that's the only way to do it. You have to kind of go out of your own boundaries.
But that's a very challenging thing.
It's especially challenging when you don't speak the language, and
Yeah.
depending, you know, for Japan in particular, my wife, for one, is like a wizard at finding these incredible little towns and hotels and places, and so she's very good at, like, you know, finding those. So it was especially challenging for myself. It's like, okay, cool. You look at a town and you look at it on Google Maps, let's say. A lot of them don't translate. There's no way to translate what it is, and then, you know, you have to rely on somebody locally that can help you. But yeah, it was for me, that was especially like a very challenging setup, but it was probably the most rewarding, like, soul filling travel I've ever had in my entire life.
So when you go out in a place like that,
Yep.
you look at the wine list, obviously, because you can't help yourself,
Yes.
like all of us do.
Yeah.
What are you ultimately looking? Because
You know, it's interesting because in Japan in particular, so natural wine is very big in Japan. You can drink all of the crazy wines that you can't drink now in Paris that you used to be able to 5 years ago, and that you're shunned if you ask for them in New York. So there's certain places you can go and you can drink them, but most of these places don't have wine lists, and you have to have a conversation. And
you know
that
why that
is,
is.
I mean, I'm sure because there's trolls like people like,
No,
you know,
it's a taxation thing.
makes sense. You know, and I will say wine in Japan is also very expensive.
Yeah, but it's
Um,
taxation. It's taxed.
yeah. But I don't know. I kind of look to see more of like what they have, just for comparison's sake, right? Like, I feel we're very lucky. We have an immense amount of privilege in New York from a wine perspective of, you know, if you want to have a bottle of something crazy fancy in New York, there's a restaurant that has it. Or if you want that rare bottle of Overnoise, somebody has it. Of course, there's a price, right? Um, but it's really hard, you know, in Japan to really, like, find things without having an insider, you know, info. But my wife and I actually didn't drink that much wine in Japan. We had so much fun drinking. I have no knowledge of sake. I'm totally out of that realm. So it was fun to let certain sommeliers just pick some wine. And then other times, some really good bottles found their way in front of us, and that was amazing. But, you know, I just want to look and see what is available and what's around. And it's interesting to see, like, what fancy restaurants have, or the local, you know, essentially like spontino or whatever you want to call it, izakaya in Japanese culture. But I don't know. I just like to look, really. There's nothing, I'm never really after anything in particular. Should also note that the Japan trip was the first trip that my wife and I have done in the 13 years we've been together that wine was not the reason for travel or had something to do that influenced our travel. It was purely vacation, and we made a vow there would be no chasing of wine, which I like to do quite a bit, and that we were going to see a new culture and to experience something, like, completely new to us. And that was nice. I have to say,
How did that go?
it went surprisingly well, although I did come back with some stuff, but it was pure coincidence.
No, man.
Yeah. um, but it was very enjoyable to, you know, when I go to, like, Europe on a wine trip, or I go with a friend somewhere to another city or something, you're constantly wanting to, like, search for that bottle in the retail shop or whatever. There was no stress, you know. There was no like worry about, oh, we have to go to this restaurant. We have to somehow find a way to get this guy to sell us this bottle of wine, or let's go here and drink this crazy bottle for happy hour before we go to dinner. It was literally just like, let's go and let's enjoy ourselves. And if we come into contact with good wine, let's drink it.
Isn't this what wine is all about?
It's precisely what it's about. And that,
Yeah.
I think, was a good reminder to myself of, you know, when you stress about it too much, and I stress about wine quite a bit. It's part of my job. But, you know, when you can sit back and really just enjoy it for being a tasty, delicious beverage, it makes you appreciate it a little bit more.
So you travel also with a suitcase solely for beverages. That's it.
I have been known to purchase suitcases on vacations that come home with beverages.
With beverages. Because Michael is asking, how many bottles do you have at home?
I don't keep a lot of wine at home. There's maybe 3 cases, 30 bottles. Yeah, I don't, you know.
He'll be very disappointed by this answer, knowing him.
Well, he's probably to blame for why there's not many bottles left, because every time he comes over, he finds his way to the small wine fridge and somehow finds the best bottle in said wine fridge. And next thing I know, it's open.
That's
also,
funny.
it's more fun to drink friends' wines, right?
Well, and the best wines are always the shared ones.
Totally.
Those were always the best bottles.
I would say that's probably one of I'd say that's the thing I miss the most. In seriousness, just not being able to have friends come over and just pop a couple bottles and, you know, do nothing. But soon, I hope.
Yeah, soon we have. So, with your wine list, you obviously have often also, you know, people who have no idea about wine, people who just start out. What are the common questions they ask you? Because that, I feel, obviously, you know, we nerd out completely on all sorts of things, and they struggle already just ordering a glass of Pinot Grigio. And I don't mean to be this in a condescending way. I just mean it's a pure
sure.
You know?
Yep. And this, it's an interesting like discussion, I think, that could go off the rails for hours. But, you know, we talk about this a lot with our team. We get, you know, nowadays the questions have changed, right? They are very much influenced by what you see in writing and on the internet and social media. People ask a lot about, whereas before it was like, I like light-bodied wine, I like heavy, I like Pinot, I like Cabernet. Now it's a little more of like, I want to try something that's biodynamic. And that, you know, that to me, you might as well just say, I want to try wine, because obviously it spans the spectrum, right? So we get a lot about, a lot of questions like in that vein of like, oh, I want to have something that's organically farmed, or I'd like to try something that's low in sulfur. But we also get, you know, Frankie's Swentino has been here for, you know, for a little over 15 years now. You definitely get people that ask the classic questions of, I want to have Chianti Classico and you have a page of them, I don't know what to do. And you get questions of regional questions of what's the difference between X and Y. And we have a really good team too, that we find ways to absorb some questions. Our big thing is trying to say no as little as possible. You know, if somebody says, yeah, right, basic 101. But it's, you know, there are a lot of things that a lot of people that maybe aren't as into wine or care as much, I don't want to say care as much, but care to research as much. And, you know, we try to not say, oh, I like Malbec. And okay, well, we don't have Malbec. It's, well, what do you like about Malbec? And then we try to steer them in a direction that makes sense with the wine list, which is also a reason of why the wine list is formatted in the way that it is. So, you know, the questions span from very basic things. And of course, there are consumers who are very knowledgeable and have strong opinions, and they want to ask pointed questions. And luckily, I'm very, very lucky we have a very good team of beverage managers and sommeliers who are on the floor when we're open all the time, absorbing and providing hospitality.
So what do you do when you have this classic, Malbec? And again, I'm not asking this in a judging question,
No,
because
for sure.
often, they're very, passionate about it,
Yep,
and nothing in the world will change their mind,
totally.
and it doesn't need to.
Right, and what I have told my sommeliers, and then when I was on a team and prior, is if somebody says they like Gamay and they want to drink Gamay, right? Give them Gamay. Don't try to be a hero and introduce them to something new. Give them what they ask for. So it's instances like Malbec. So we have one Malbec actually on our list, and it's no sulfur, fully carbonic from Patagonia. So that's probably not what somebody who likes Malbec wants to drink, right?
It's not the chakra.
No, it's not. It's not Chakra actually. It's another. He's actually not far from Piero's place. But anyway, it's the question of Malbec is okay. Cool. You like Malbec? Do you want something that's really like full and do you like a lot of tannin and fruity, etc.? And then trying to like every other sommelier, dissect as much information as possible without coming across as maybe the stereotypical sommelier. So, and then we try to take them where we can on the wine list, right? So our wine list is set up by style instead of by country or by region, right? So we say, okay, cool, let's go to this full body page and let's take a look here. And all right, so and then it goes a bit further, right? Then you start talking about price and maybe doing process of elimination of certain areas, but I wouldn't say it's any different than other sommeliers, right? It's just, we try to be as casual as we possibly can, and we are very casual. But we also acknowledge that the list can be a little intimidating. It's 30-something pages, and we're a restaurant where we wear T-shirts to work, right? So.
Yeah, but I noticed, many neighborhoods have sort of their own dynamics.
Sure.
And your restaurant is no question a neighborhood restaurant.
I find it, I'm opinionated, but I consider it to be like the epitome of a neighborhood restaurant. And it was a little bit of a challenge for me specifically because when I started in 2014, there really wasn't a wine program, there was. I'm not discrediting prior, but it was.
No, it's a total different ballgame.
Yeah, and that's precisely why the Franks brought Beyond. We wanted to develop culture and be known for a place where you can drink delicious wine, and you can also find rare things and maybe allocated wines and the things that are on trend. But at the end of the day, just a bunch of delicious wine. So the list is big for sure, especially for Frankie's has maybe 40 seats on a good day. So. Yeah, it's different. So it is important to us to also make sure that those classic representations of if somebody comes in and says, I want a glass of Sauvignon Blanc, or I want a glass of Sancerre, or we whatever we give to them that is Sauvignon Blanc tastes like what they imagine it's going to taste like. We don't want to be educators at every turn, right? I think it's sometimes you just want to be able to say, I want to drink a glass of buttery Chardonnay, and you just give it to somebody. So long as it falls within the ethos of what you believe in as a sommelier and as a wine director and a wine buyer, who cares? The idea is to put wine in front of people, right? And have them enjoy it, have them pay, and come back and say, I was here last time and I had the best glass of buttery Chardonnay. Okay.
I had this conversation many, many years ago, and I was there with a very prominent group of sommeliers, and they gave me shit that I have Veuve Clicquot on the list. I said, why not?
Yeah.
And I said, you're not gonna tell me that I have this young date couple coming in on a Saturday night. She orders a Veuve Clicquot because she sees it on every lifestyle magazine, every billboard. You're not gonna come around and tell her this is no good, order Pierre Peters, because guess what? If she doesn't get what she wants, he looks like an idiot. You downsold the restaurant, you downsold the tip, obviously.
Yep.
To satisfy your ego.
Yep.
So that's basically a lost client right there from the get-go. I said, make him come back. Listen, how
Totally.
much more easier can my job get by
Yeah.
reordering another case of Veuve Clicquot? After the fourth visit, I turn him.
You know, we talk about it a lot. You have to put your ego aside. At the end of the day, a restaurant is a business, just like a retail store is a business. It's your job to sell things. And when you sell something and the customer or the guest likes it, they come back. Um, I'm not, I don't have the most like expansive vocabulary in the world, and I don't wax poetic about a lot of crazy things, but like, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, right? If somebody wants something, just give it to them.
No, but
Um,
it's again, it's things, people have often opinion, but I think large brands, they can be also really interesting, and they have an
yeah,
audience, and
yeah,
that's great.
right. You know,
So again,
I
I'm
also,
just using this example that not you don't have to drink only small producers. When you go to
sure.
houses, there can be really some delicious houses there.
Absolutely. And I think it's important to know too, there are many wine buyers that build wine lists that there's wines on the list that you don't want to drink, but they serve a purpose. And I think that's very important. And I think a lot of people lose sight of that. I can also acknowledge it's hard, right? If you have a small program and you can only have 30 wines, maybe you can't have the cult Cabernet on your list because it doesn't make sense, and you have to be more wise about what you put on. But at the end of the day, the job is to get bottles and glasses of wine on the table and get guests what they want. So again, so long as it falls within what you believe to be acceptable and appropriate for whatever program it is that you're doing.
Yeah. So I have never seen Cork Hoarder being so nervous on anything.
Yeah, I make him very nervous.
That's good to hear.
Understandably so.
Yeah? Why is
Yes.
that?
Well, we could ask him if we could get him on here to show his facial hair, but I don't think that would go over very well.
I asked him. He said, "Nah, he doesn't like to be on social media as much."
I it's probably best for everybody.
Yeah. um, you said you drink a lot of beer.
Yes,
I don't know.
I
You have
do.
very eclectic taste there.
Uh, I will say I would agree, but since quarantine I've drank three breweries, so maybe that's not as eclectic as it should be. But
Okay, what
uh,
would those three breweries be?
well, I love Cantillon, of course, which I have to give credit to my wife. It's a very interesting story, if you want it, about why I like Cantillon. It has nothing to do with me being a wine person. Um, and I drink a lot of Suarez because I think Suarez makes fantastic Pilsner. They're upstate. And Folksbier, right down the street from us at Frankie's. Joey Pepper, brewmaster, I think makes some really, really delicious local beer.
Interesting.
Yeah.
But I remember when I was in Paris
Oh, yeah, of
and we've met up,
course.
you knew exactly in which store to go,
Yep.
and you seemed to, and I think they were Arabic guys, if I recall this correctly,
Yeah, it's called the Beer
right?
Cellar in the
Yeah,
11th. Yeah.
and they knew their stuff. Whenever they were most excited about that, we asked them even can we have it here right now.
Yep. Yeah. Well, most people go to that store and just cherry pick, put them in their suitcase, and take them home. And if I
Yeah.
remember correctly, that was a bottle of Lambic Bio, the Guz, and it was that was I don't know 2 years ago. Also, we had just had a kind of ridiculous dinner and drank some really exceptional wine. So it was a perfect night. Oh, and then we went and had champagne afterwards. I forgot about
Yeah,
that.
I mean, Whitney is on here, so it was
Yeah,
fine with Whitney.
yeah, of course. I think Cantillon is a very, very special brasserie. I used to drink it in college. It was not a thing. That was '06, '07, '08, '09. I lived in Charleston, and the brewery, like there was a beer store, and they always had them on the back shelf, and nobody would buy them. And so my wife and I used to drink them all the time for $10 a bottle. Was it? We totally took for granted now how like, oh, you can't drink Cantillon really if you want to. It's not as accessible, unfortunately, but those are
Why do you think
amazing.
that is?
Yeah, a lot of wine in some ways, wine people in some ways don't realize the beer market is probably just as intense, if not more intense, than our consumer market in the wine industry. It's just, it's different. It's a different game because it's totally different. It's first off, it's totally completely different price point. But I know there's a couple stores in Paris that I've made relationships with them, and they have told me, if you bring us Brooklyn beers from local Brooklyn breweries, we'll give you Cantillon. I was like, what? Okay. Because, but it's the same for them, right? As it is for us, for Folksbier and Suarez and Other Half, and those beers that we can get every day because they're local. Cantillon is the same. But I also think that Cantillon bridges an interesting gap because, one, for the beer geeks, it's the pinnacle. For sommeliers, especially those who lean more in the natural camp, it's the pinnacle. But then for sommeliers who just appreciate some form of a fermented beverage, it's very good. It's very, very good.
Have you given this to a regular guy who just likes his regular beer and watched his response?
I have not, and I would like to, but I also don't know if I have any bottles that I would ever really just want to open up on a whim in case somebody doesn't like it. But
no,
I
but,
will. Yeah,
look, but this
right?
is like with the great bottle of wine.
Yeah.
I mean, give someone his first bottle of Rouleau. What do you see the experience is?
Yeah.
Right? Or give someone a Koch. How do they respond?
Sure.
And I find this always really rewarding because, again, this is when you share wine. This is when the best experiences come in, and you excite someone.
Totally. And again, had my wife we were traveling abroad. We were studying abroad rather. And she insisted that we go to this Brasserie Cantillon because it was the oldest brewery in Brussels. It was still family owned and blah, blah, blah. I said, okay. We started going there. It's in a horrible part of town. Horrible. This was in 2008. And so we went and we got a tour. We were the only people there. And then we sat down and drank the beers. And admittedly, I didn't really like them in the beginning because it's not if you know nothing about that style of beer, there's a very small percent chance that you're going to actually enjoy it, right?
That's why I asked you that question.
Yeah, I come from Alabama, and prior to that, I think I probably had craft beer. The extent of my craft beer knowledge was like Dogfish Head. So to go from that to that is very different. So anyway, we went and tried all the beers, and we became Rosé de Gambrinus. We liked right off the bat. I was like, I've never had anything like this. And I'm sure there are definitely people that would have that same experience that don't know anything about Cantillon. It would be interesting, but I think maybe wine consumers and sommeliers are going to be a little more would maybe easily be enthused, I guess, about Cantillon. But then again, I know several very good sommeliers who think it's repulsive. So to each their own.
I mean, we have different opinions. It's all good and right.
Totally. And honestly, the more people who don't like something that I like, the better for me, because then I don't have to worry about competing for it.
Well, I think we reach our time. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Yeah, it was fun.
I can't wait to see you. And
likewise.
Have a beer or a bottle of wine, and we finally like a cork holder back to work.
Yeah, it would be nice. So he'd stop texting me and trolling on the Instagram.
Yeah.
If I see you when I'm in the park walking and you're on your bike, I'll yell.
Yeah. Maybe I take Engelman on a ride with me.
Yeah, I think that'd be great.
We maybe do a social media session there.
Yeah, you could spot those calves from across the park.
Yeah, cool, awesome. Thanks.
Thank
bye.
you. Be well. Cheers.